There comes a defining hour in every intelligent person's life when they awaken to a truth so simple, yet so severe, that it divides the weak from the strong, the dreamers from the doers, the talkers from the masters. That truth is this: success is not built in the glory of outcome, but in the quiet, disciplined repetition of process. Most men and women live as slaves to results. They chase applause, approval, and visible progress with the desperation of a drowning soul grasping for air. When results come, they celebrate as if they have conquered the universe. When results delay, they despair as if the universe has betrayed them. They are moved not by purpose but by perception, not by inner command but by outer confirmation. But the few, the rare minds who shape history and bend circumstance live by a different law. They understand that the process itself is the throne of power, that consistency, not excitement, creates kings. That emotional detachment from outcomes is not coldness, but maturity. The immature mind demands reward before effort. The disciplined mind finds reward in effort itself. If you are to rise to greatness, you must fall in love with the process. You must learn to value sweat more than spotlight, repetition more than recognition, patience more than praise, for outcomes are fickle. They belong to time, to chance, to circumstance, but process belongs to you. Outcome is external, process is internal. Outcome is a photograph, process is a film. Outcome flatters the ego, process forges the soul. Do not measure your worth by how quickly the fruit grows. Measure it by how deeply the roots are spreading underground. The world sees harvest. The wise man watches cultivation. Understand this. Every outcome is the echo of a process. Every success story you admire is the shadow of unseen labor, unseen nights, unseen devotion. There are no miracles, only methods. The law of cause and effect never sleeps. If your cause is chaos, your result will be confusion. If your cause is clarity, your result will be order. Therefore, fall in love with cause, the root, the principle, the practice. Let outcome be a byproduct, not a master. You must train your mind to detach from the need for immediate evidence. The seed planted today may not bloom tomorrow, but it will bloom inevitably if you nourish it. The weak man uproots his efforts too soon, crying that the soil has failed him. The wise man waters in silence, knowing that the laws of growth cannot be rushed. Every moment of disciplined effort is a seed sown into eternity. Now, let us define the true problem that keeps men enslaved: emotional dependence on results. He who depends on results for motivation will never achieve consistency. His effort will rise and fall with his moods, and his moods will rise and fall with the unpredictable tides of outcome. The emotionally reactive man works hard when praised, stops when ignored. He invests when he sees promise, withdraws when he faces pain. He is ruled not by principle, but by the weather of emotion. He asks life to be easy before he commits to being great. He prays for certainty before he dares to begin. Such a man remains poor in every realm, not for lack of talent, but for lack of discipline over emotion. Success belongs to the emotionally neutral, to those who can act in the absence of motivation, to those who have built the rare habit of steady progress regardless of applause, fatigue, or failure. The great secret of mental mastery is emotional detachment, not indifference, but independence. To be detached is to be free from the tyranny of outcome. To be independent of emotion is to be obedient only to purpose. Emotion says, I will act when I feel ready. Purpose says, I act because I have decided. Emotion seeks comfort. Purpose seeks construction. Emotion craves validation. Purpose commands completion. To build the life you desire, you must dethrone emotion and enthrone reason. You must stop negotiating with feeling and start commanding your will. Let us be plain. You cannot master anything until you first master yourself. Your thoughts are tools or tyrants depending on who wields them. Your emotions are either instruments of focus or weapons of sabotage. If you allow emotion to govern your action, you forfeit your power. But if you govern emotion with disciplined thought, you become unstoppable. This is the essence of self-discipline, the ability to act in harmony with your highest intention, regardless of your lowest mood. Discipline is the bridge between desire and destiny. It is the architecture that turns abstract vision into measurable achievement. but discipline cannot thrive in an emotionally chaotic mind. If you wish to discipline your habits, you must first discipline your heart. How? Through the deliberate practice of detachment. Detachment is not coldness, it is composure. It is the art of being fully engaged in your work while remaining inwardly unshaken by outcome. It is to move through success and failure with the same steady rhythm, knowing that neither defines you, both refine you. There is a principle I call the law of mental neutrality, a law that every builder of empires, every creator of fortune, every inventor, every thinker unconsciously obeys. The law states, to create effectively, the mind must be calm, not chaotic. A mind ruled by reaction cannot build. It consumes its own energy in storms of worry, doubt, and comparison. But a mind governed by neutrality channels its energy into clear direction. Emotional neutrality is not lack of passion, it is the purification of passion. Passion, when purified of impatience and fear, becomes persistence. The man who has mastered emotional neutrality acts from choice, not compulsion. He moves strategically, not impulsively. He sees failure, not as finality, but as feedback. He is unshaken, not because life spares him storms, but because he has learned to sail above them. Before you can master your career, your craft, or your calling, you must master response over reaction. Reaction is animal, response is divine. Reaction is the reflex of survival. Response is the reflection of reason. Reaction wastes energy. Response directs it. Every time you pause before reacting, you reclaim a fragment of your power. Every time you choose to respond with intention, you fortify your kingdom of mind. The world belongs to those who respond. The world forgets those who react. Most people never pause between thought and action. They live like flint and spark, instant ignition, instant regret. But the master, the one who has fallen in love with process, pauses. He sees. He decides. And that pause, that single second of self-command contains all the difference between chaos and creation. The man who can pause under pressure becomes a king among men. He is the investor who stays calm when markets crash, the leader who speaks reason when others panic, the creator who continues his craft while others quit. That pause is emotional power condensed. It is discipline distilled into a moment. The untrained mind calls it hesitation. The wise mind calls it dominion. For mastery over emotion does not eliminate emotion. It refines it into energy directed toward achievement. Napoleon Hill once wrote, "You either control your mind or it controls you. There is no halfway compromise. You cannot be partially disciplined any more than you can be partially free. You are either master or servant of your emotions. There is no third role." To gain mastery, you must practice calm repetition, for repetition engraves truth into the subconscious mind. Autosuggestion, the deliberate feeding of constructive thought into the deeper mind, is the mechanism by which the conscious trains the unconscious. What you repeat, you believe. What you believe, you become. If you wish to program your mind for detachment and discipline, repeat daily. My peace is not negotiable. My focus is my fortress. I act from purpose, not emotion. Repetition with emotion rewires the mind. Repetition with calmness fortifies it. The more you repeat truth, the less you will believe lies. You cannot think greatness once and expect transformation. You must think it daily, deliberately, decisively. The subconscious is a loyal servant. It obeys whatever master you feed it most. If you feed it fear, it multiplies obstacles. If you feed it purpose, it multiplies opportunity. And here lies one of the greatest paradoxes. Emotional detachment allows deeper emotion. When you are no longer enslaved by the noise of anxiety, you begin to feel the music of purpose. When you are no longer distracted by approval, you begin to hear the quiet satisfaction of progress. Detachment gives emotion its rightful place not as dictator, but as servant of will. Let us speak plainly about the disease of modern ambition, the obsession with outcome. The modern mind wants reward without rhythm, success without sacrifice, arrival without apprenticeship. It wants to win before it has learned to work. But every law of nature and achievement refutes this folly. You cannot reap in summer what you refuse to plant in spring. You cannot stand in glory if you collapsed in grind. The process is not a punishment, it is preparation. When you resist the process, you resist your own growth. When you fall in love with it, you transcend struggle itself. For the process, once embraced, ceases to feel like labor. It becomes expression. Ask the sculptor chiseling marble why he endures the dust. He will tell you, because in every strike of the chisel, he meets the form hidden within. Ask the athlete why he trains in solitude. He will answer, because the man I become in training is greater than the medal I win in competition. Ask the thinker why he reads and reflects when no one listens. He will smile and say, because the process of thinking is the reward of intelligence. So it is with every creator, every achiever, every master. They have learned the divine joy of process. They do not work for applause. They work for alignment. They do not chase outcomes. They chase excellence. For they have discovered that excellence, once habitual, guarantees success, because the man who masters process cannot fail. Even if the world misunderstands him, time will vindicate him. Success is never an event. It is the accumulated echo of disciplined process. The process builds character, and character builds destiny. When you fall in love with the process, you no longer need constant validation. You no longer live as a slave to progress charts, compliments, or critics. You live by a deeper rhythm, the rhythm of principle. And the man who lives by principle cannot be defeated by temporary results. He may lose battles, but he never loses direction. He may be delayed, but he is never derailed. He may face resistance, but resistance only strengthens him. For in every delay, discipline matures. And in that maturity lies immortality, the kind of success that cannot be taken, only continued. The true master of life is not the one who seeks comfort, but the one who learns to be comfortable with discipline. The masses drift from one emotion to another like ships without anchor, guided by the winds of circumstance. But the disciplined man rises each day with an inner command that says, I will act because it is right, not because it is easy. This is the voice of self-mastery, the voice of the conqueror within. It is not loud, but it is constant. It is not dramatic, but it is decisive. The man who obeys this voice does not live by chance. He lives by law, the law of cause and effect, the law of process, the law of mind over matter. He understands that everything begins within him and that his outer world is the mirror of his inner state. He knows that if his thoughts are scattered, his results will be scattered. If his emotions are unstable, his progress will be unstable. But if his mind is calm, ordered, and governed by purpose, all things move into harmony with that state. Emotional detachment, therefore, is not the death of feeling. It is the birth of control. It is to feel deeply, yet choose wisely. It is to experience life fully without being enslaved by the changing seasons of emotion. The emotionally reactive man is tossed like a leaf in the storm of life, but the emotionally detached man is like the oak that stands firm through every season. He bends but does not break. He adjusts but does not abandon. He trusts the process because he has mastered the principle. Calmness is not weakness. It is the highest expression of strength. When a man remains calm under fire, he has achieved a state that few ever know, a state of supreme command over himself. The world bows to those who do not flinch under pressure. Calmness is the evidence of trust in law, not luck. It is the mark of a man who knows that every cause brings its effect, that every effort bears fruit in its season, and that no storm lasts forever. To be calm is to be powerful beyond measure. When you remain calm, you think with clarity. When you think clearly, you act effectively. When you act effectively, you create results that appear effortless to those who are enslaved by emotion. Calmness, therefore, is the unseen force behind precision, the invisible strength behind consistency. The man who is calm in the face of chaos has discovered the secret of power. He no longer reacts to the noise of the world. He directs the rhythm of his own. He has trained himself to pause where others panic, to breathe where others break, to observe where others overreact. That pause, that silent breath, that inner observation, these are the tools of mastery. When the undisciplined man feels anger, he speaks before thinking, acts before reflecting, destroys before creating. But the disciplined man transforms that anger into resolve, that fear into focus, that uncertainty into patience. This transformation is not accidental. It is deliberate. It is a process practiced daily until it becomes second nature. This practice of emotional transmutation is one of the highest arts of success. Every emotion is energy in motion. Left ungoverned, it becomes destructive. Directed by intelligence, it becomes creative. Fear, when mastered, becomes awareness. Anger, when mastered, becomes determination. Desire, when mastered, becomes vision. Pain, when mastered, becomes power. Nothing in life is wasted if it is transformed by purpose. The wise do not escape their emotions, they educate them. They do not suppress their passion, they discipline it into precision. The process of mastery is the process of transmutation, taking the raw material of emotion and refining it into fuel for achievement. There is no progress without discipline, and no discipline without detachment. The man who clings to immediate pleasure will never taste lasting joy. The man who chases quick results will never experience deep satisfaction. But the man who can work without needing the instant reward has discovered the secret of greatness. He knows that every seed takes time. Every mountain climb demands patience. Every masterpiece requires labor. He does not curse delay, he uses it. He does not fear repetition, he trusts it. He does not resent the grind, he worships it as the altar of transformation. To fall in love with the process is to fall in love with the invisible law of life. The law says, you will not always get what you want immediately, but you will always get what you deserve inevitably. There is a rhythm to creation, a timing to manifestation, and only those who are patient enough to persist will experience its fullness. You cannot rush maturity. You cannot cheat cause and effect. You cannot skip the necessary labor and expect the harvest to respect your impatience. The universe respects effort, not entitlement. It rewards constancy, not excitement. It crowns those who persist when emotion has faded and enthusiasm has fled. Do not be fooled by the illusion of quick success. Fortune that comes without discipline leaves without warning. The riches that endure are born of process, not impulse. The man who builds slowly builds forever. The man who builds in haste builds for collapse. Therefore, build with patience, for patience is power in disguise. Every moment of restraint is a moment of reinforcement. Every act of consistency strengthens the walls of your inner fortress. Discipline is the architect of destiny. Without it, talent is wasted, opportunity is squandered, and time becomes an enemy. Discipline makes average men formidable and great men unstoppable. It is the invisible partner of genius. The world remembers those who persist long after others quit. The masses surrender to mood, the masters surrender to mission. You must come to understand that there is no such thing as the right time. There is only this time now, and the decision to use it. Those who wait for perfect conditions will wait forever. Those who act despite imperfection shape conditions into perfection. The disciplined man knows that conditions are created, not found. He wakes before the world does, not because it is easy, but because it aligns him with the law of cause before the noise of effect. He plans his day with purpose because he understands that order is the foundation of power. He refuses to waste energy on trivial emotions because he knows that every drop of attention must serve a higher design. The weak waste emotion, the wise invest it. The weak cry for motivation, the wise create it. The weak search for comfort, the wise cultivate strength. Emotional mastery means redirecting your energy toward what builds you instead of what drains you. It means using adversity as exercise, opposition as opportunity, and boredom as the training ground of greatness. To master the inner world, you must learn to separate feeling from fact. Emotion is often loud, truth is often silent. Emotion demands reaction. Truth requires reflection. The disciplined man does not make decisions when emotions are high because he knows that emotion distorts perception. He waits until the mind is calm, and only then does he move. In that waiting lies wisdom, and in that wisdom lies victory. Emotional control is the foundation upon which all other virtues stand. Without it, courage becomes recklessness, ambition becomes greed, and confidence becomes arrogance. But with it, all virtues find their rightful balance. The man who controls emotion can direct his destiny. The man who cannot control emotion is directed by everything except destiny. Therefore, build the habit of stillness. Sit each day in quiet reflection before you act. Let your mind settle before you speak. Let your thoughts arrange themselves before you decide. In stillness, the noise of confusion dissolves, and the signal of truth becomes clear. The greatest victories are won in silence before they are seen in the world. Every conqueror has mastered himself in solitude before he conquered in society. You must become that conqueror, the ruler of your mind, the general of your emotions, the architect of your habits. You must train yourself daily in the art of deliberate thinking. When fear arises, question it. When doubt whispers, challenge it. When laziness tempts you, defy it. Every small victory in thought becomes a great victory in reality. Each time you command your mind to obey principle instead of feeling, you strengthen the invisible muscle of mastery. The road to greatness is not paved with excitement, but with endurance. The process may be slow, but its rewards are eternal. You must learn to work without applause, to persist without visible progress, to continue without recognition. These are not acts of heroism. They are the daily habits of the disciplined. When the world sleeps, the master works. When the world doubts, the master believes. When the world hesitates, the master acts. And why does he act? Because he has learned the sacred truth that effort itself is reward. He no longer needs results to justify his labor. His satisfaction comes from knowing that he obeys the law of growth. His fulfillment is found in the integrity of his process. He does not look ahead in anxiety nor backward in regret. He looks inward and continues with conviction. He knows that the process, faithfully followed, guarantees eventual success because it transforms him into the kind of man who cannot fail. For success is not something you pursue, it is something you attract by the person you become. And the person you become is built daily, moment by moment, habit by habit, decision by decision. Each act of discipline shapes your character, and your character shapes your destiny. Therefore, treat every small action as sacred. The way you do the smallest thing is the way you do everything. If you are careless in private, you will be careless in public. If you are disciplined in solitude, you will be powerful in society. Greatness does not begin on stage, it begins in silence. To fall in love with the process is to fall in love with mastery itself. You cease to measure yourself by what you have accomplished and begin to measure yourself by what you are capable of becoming. You stop living for praise and begin living for progress. You stop chasing the illusion of success and begin embodying the substance of it. And once you have reached that state, once you are governed by purpose and no longer enslaved by passion, then no outcome can disturb your peace and no failure can destroy your faith. You become untouchable, immovable, unstoppable. You will not need to declare your strength because it will radiate from your composure. You will not need to demand respect because your discipline will command it. The world may not understand your silence, but it will bow to your results. For the man who has fallen in love with the process cannot be defeated because he no longer fights against time, he works with it. He no longer resists the grind, he rises through it. He no longer needs the outcome, he becomes the outcome. There will come a time in your journey when you will face long seasons of silence, when no one will praise you, when the world seems to have forgotten your effort, when the results you expected fail to appear. In that silence, most men quit. They turn away from the process because their emotions can no longer endure uncertainty, but the few who understand the law of persistence remain. They do not seek proof of progress. They live by faith in principle. They know that time tests the sincerity of every dream and that the delay of reward is the crucible in which character is purified. When others stop, they continue. When others doubt, they trust. When others demand evidence, they create it. And slowly, invisibly, power accumulates around them like gravity gathering mass until what once seemed impossible bends inevitably toward them. The power of patience is the power of understanding that nature never hurries, yet everything is accomplished. The river does not rush, yet it carves through mountains. The seed does not scream, yet it splits stone. The process is never hurried, because law does not need to rush. It only needs to be obeyed. Those who wait actively, who work steadily, who continue faithfully despite appearance, align themselves with the rhythm of law. They become unstoppable not because they are faster, but because they never stop moving. Progress, no matter how slow, multiplies through repetition. A single act of discipline repeated daily becomes the foundation of empires. A single thought repeated with conviction becomes a new identity. You cannot fail if you are willing to continue. The world may ignore you, time may test you, but the law will not betray you. You must therefore cultivate the habit of invisible labor, the discipline of working without witnesses. The greatest builders in history worked in solitude long before applause found them. The mind that depends on recognition weakens in its absence, but the mind that works for mastery strengthens in silence. There is no loneliness in solitude when you understand that every repetition brings you closer to inevitability. Every day that you practice your craft, discipline your thought, and guard your focus, you are advancing even if the world does not yet see it. You are compounding invisible progress, and the day will come when the visible catches up. Emotional detachment gives you this power, the ability to stay centered while others are distracted by noise. The weak are addicted to validation because they have not learned to validate themselves through principle. The detached man is immune to both flattery and insult. Praise cannot inflate him, and criticism cannot deflate him. His self-worth no longer depends on outcomes but on obedience to the process. He knows that self-respect earned through discipline is worth more than approval purchased through performance. He no longer lives for the eyes of others but for the integrity of his own conscience. This level of mastery requires the destruction of ego. Ego demands to be seen. Purpose demands to serve. Ego wants victory. Purpose wants virtue. Ego lives for the moment of applause. Purpose lives for the eternity of impact. When you fall in love with the process, you kill the ego and resurrect the soul. You cease to chase the illusion of significance and begin to embody the reality of contribution. Every act becomes sacred because it is done with excellence, even when no one watches. Every challenge becomes a teacher, every delay a test, every obstacle a mirror reflecting your current level of control. Understand that no obstacle is external. Every obstacle is internal. What you call resistance is merely the reflection of your unreadiness. Life gives you not what you ask for, but what you are prepared to handle. If you have not yet mastered your emotions, life will continue to present situations that provoke them. If you have not yet mastered discipline, life will continue to tempt you with distraction. Every trial is the classroom of growth. Every frustration is feedback. Every difficulty is an invitation to rise. The weak curse their circumstances. The strong use them. The wise ask not, "Why is this happening to me?" but "What is this showing me about myself?" For in that question lies liberation. You must come to see resistance, not as punishment, but as preparation. Diamonds are formed not by comfort, but by compression. Steel is strengthened not by ease, but by fire. The process is never gentle with those it intends to make great. If you are being tested, it is because you are being trained. If you are being delayed, it is because you are being developed. Do not pray for lighter burdens, pray for stronger backs. Do not wish for easier paths, wish for sharper minds. For it is not the path that determines your greatness, it is the man who walks it. When you fall in love with the process, you cease to fear hardship because you recognize it as the forge of transformation. Pain becomes teacher, not tormentor. Discipline becomes devotion, not drudgery. Failure becomes feedback, not finality. You stop asking, "When will this end?" and start asking, "How can I refine myself through this?" And through that shift, your suffering becomes sacred. Mastery of the inner world demands that you direct emotion through intention. Emotion is a wild horse. It will run in circles until you give it reins. Most people are dragged by their emotions, exhausted by constant reaction. The master mounts the horse, grips the reins, and directs its energy toward the finish line of purpose. You cannot kill emotion. It is the fuel of life, but you must steer it. Passion without discipline burns itself out. Passion with discipline becomes power. When you control your energy, you control your destiny. There is no greater victory than the mastery of attention. Where your attention goes, energy flows, and where energy flows, creation grows. The scattered mind achieves nothing. The focused mind achieves miracles. You must therefore guard your attention with the same ferocity that a warrior guards his weapon. Every moment of distraction is stolen potential. Every indulgence in negativity is a withdrawal from your account of power. Train yourself to think only of what you desire, to dwell only on what you can control, to invest energy only in what serves your higher aim. The process is built on this law. Repetition plus attention equals transformation. Whatever you consistently think, feel, and do, you eventually become. If you repeat anxiety, you become anxious. If you repeat courage, you become fearless. If you repeat focus, you become powerful. This is why daily discipline is sacred. It is the ceremony through which you become who you are destined to be. Every morning you choose between two identities, the one ruled by reaction or the one ruled by reason. Choose reason long enough, and reaction will dissolve. Choose order long enough, and chaos will fade. Choose calm long enough, and mastery will emerge. Never forget this. The man who masters the process masters his fate. Fate is not chance. It is the accumulated momentum of daily choices. You do not drift into greatness. You build it brick by brick, habit by habit, thought by thought. Each decision compounds. Each act of willpower deposits another stone in the structure of destiny. And one day, without fanfare, you will look around and realize that you have become the person you once hoped to be, not because of miracles, but because of method. Not because of luck, but because of law. Fall in love with the method. Fall in love with the discipline. Fall in love with the unseen hours that no one applauds. Those hours are sacred. They are where the invisible becomes inevitable. You are not merely preparing for success. You are becoming success itself. And when you become success, outcomes can no longer control you because you already possess internally what they promise externally. This is why detachment brings power. When you no longer need the result to affirm you, you perform with freedom. When you no longer fear failure, you act with boldness. When you no longer seek validation, you lead with vision. Detachment liberates energy from anxiety and redirects it toward creation. The man who is free from outcome becomes irresistible to it, for the universe rewards composure with control. Your goal is not to conquer the world, but to conquer yourself. For when you command your mind, the world aligns naturally. The only true enemy is the undisciplined self, the self that sabotages, the self that procrastinates, the self that knows what is right, yet chooses comfort. You must slay that version of yourself every morning and resurrect the one who acts in harmony with purpose. Each day is a battlefield between weakness and will, and every decision is a sword stroke. Fight that battle with honor, and soon victory becomes habit. Do not underestimate the power of small acts. A single disciplined decision repeated long enough will alter the trajectory of your life. Wake 1 hour earlier, read 1 page more, speak 1 word less in anger. Pause 1 second longer before reacting. Every small act of mastery compounds until it becomes second nature. This is how character is carved, not in grand moments, but in consistent motion. When you live by process, you find that peace replaces pressure. You no longer chase moments, you create momentum. You no longer pray for luck, you rely on law. You no longer seek rest through escape, you find it through order. The process itself becomes your sanctuary, and the daily discipline becomes your meditation. Work no longer feels like struggle, it becomes your ritual of power. Each repetition affirms your strength. Each hour of focus fortifies your faith. And one day, when results arrive, you will not be surprised, for you will know that they were inevitable. Success will no longer feel like a rival, but like recognition of what you have quietly become. The world will call it destiny. You will call it proof of discipline. This is the hidden joy of the master. He no longer chases results because he lives in the cause. He no longer craves approval because he lives in alignment. He no longer depends on the world because he has built his own. Fall in love with the process, not the outcome, for the process is where greatness is born, where peace is preserved, where power is perfected. Every great life begins as a single decision to obey principle over emotion, to honor consistency over comfort, to trust time over impatience. Make that decision now, and you will never again be ruled by the tyranny of results. There will come a day when you understand that all the world's treasures pale in comparison to the possession of a disciplined mind. You will look back on your struggles and see that every delay was mercy, every hardship was training, every disappointment was the universe sharpening your soul for higher responsibility. For true wealth is not measured in accumulation, but in composure, not in the comfort of possessions, but in the control of perception. The man who governs his mind owns everything he needs, for he has mastery over the source of all experience. It is the nature of life to test every claim you make. If you say you desire peace, you will be placed among chaos. If you declare strength, you will be sent trials. If you affirm discipline, you will face temptation. This is not cruelty. It is the law of confirmation. Life verifies belief through challenge. The universe does not reward wishers. It rewards workers. It does not crown the emotional, but the steadfast. Those who stand when others tremble prove they are fit to lead themselves. Those who lead themselves need not seek approval from the world, for the world follows the fragrance of conviction. You must therefore build an inner life so strong that external events lose their power to shake you. The storms will come, but the man anchored in process is unmoved. Others are destroyed by resistance. He is defined by it. Each difficulty becomes his discipline. Each failure becomes his forge. Each silence becomes his sanctuary. He does not waste time asking for lighter burdens. He strengthens his shoulders instead. He no longer seeks a path without obstacles, for he knows that the obstacle is the path. This is what it means to live with sovereignty, to move through the world as the ruler of your own attention, the commander of your own emotions, the master of your own reactions. It is to be undisturbed by insult, unshaken by failure, untempted by praise. You no longer need the world to behave as you wish because you have learned to behave as you must. The man who has mastered himself lives above circumstance. He does not deny the world. He directs it by directing himself first. Every man must decide whom he serves, his emotion or his intention. One leads to confusion, the other to command. When you serve emotion, you live in cycles, moments of hope followed by despair, moments of inspiration followed by collapse. When you serve intention, you live in progress, steady, deliberate, unshakable. You will have emotions, yes, but they will have you no longer. They will rise and fall like waves beneath the surface while you remain the unmoved ocean above them. There is a quiet glory in this kind of strength. It is not dramatic, it is not loud, but it is absolute. It is the calm confidence of one who knows that no force outside can overthrow the law within. It is the peace that comes from alignment with truth, the truth that every result in life is the child of consistent cause. When you live by that truth, you no longer gamble with outcomes. You create them with intention. You no longer fear the future. You build it daily through discipline. You no longer depend on luck. You trust the law. Law, not luck, is the foundation of all enduring success. The man who depends on chance lives as a beggar. The man who depends on principle lives as a creator. Chance is the language of the emotional. Law is the language of the disciplined. The universe is a mirror. It reflects order to those who live in order, chaos to those who live in chaos. When you organize your inner world, your outer world must follow. It cannot do otherwise. It is bound by the same law that binds your thought to your reality. If you would transform your destiny, transform your daily disciplines. Each thought is a seed, each repetition, a root. The process you follow is the soil in which your future grows. Therefore, guard it as sacred. Do not plant weeds of fear and expect flowers of faith. Do not plant excuses and expect excellence. Plant effort, plant precision, plant gratitude. For whatever you sow inwardly, you must reap outwardly. The process is not punishment, it is participation in the creative law itself. When you fall in love with the process, you become a conscious participant in your own evolution. Great men are not born great. They are built by discipline. The statue is already inside the stone. Only the process of chiseling reveals it. The same is true of you. Within your mind lies the potential for mastery, genius, leadership, and peace. But only through the chisel of daily discipline can it emerge. Each strike of effort reveals another layer of truth. Each repetition sharpens another edge of character. Each moment of emotional restraint polishes another facet of power. There is no substitute for this inner labor. You cannot delegate discipline. You cannot outsource mastery. You cannot borrow peace. These things are earned in the hidden chambers of your own consciousness. They are bought with the currency of patience, paid for through consistency, and secured by the refusal to quit. Success is not what you get. It is who you become through obedience to principle. Remember this law. The stronger your process, the less fragile your peace. When your life is built on discipline, no loss can shake you, no delay can depress you, no insult can define you. The disciplined man is dangerous not because he seeks conflict, but because he cannot be conquered by it. The undisciplined man is defeated by inconvenience. The disciplined man is elevated by it. The undisciplined complains that life is unfair. The disciplined understands that fairness is irrelevant, law is what matters. Law rewards the one who works, not the one who wishes. There will come days when your progress is invisible. On those days, remember this: unseen growth is still growth. The seed in the soil does not announce its progress. It simply breaks the surface when ready. Trust the silence of your process. Trust the seasons. The winter of waiting is not punishment, it is preparation. Those who abandon the process in winter will never taste the fruit of spring. But those who stay faithful to the grind, who continue sowing even when tired, who hold their vision when the world sees nothing, they are the ones who eventually harvest more than they dreamed. When you feel weary, return to your why. When emotion clouds your focus, return to principle. When the noise of comparison deafens you, return to silence. These are the rituals of the master. He does not wander into chaos. He walks back into clarity. He has built within himself a system that sustains him when the world fails to. That system is called self-discipline. The highest form of discipline is faith. Faith not as blind belief, but as intelligent trust in law. Faith says, if I plant rightly, I will reap rightly. Faith says, if I persist, I will prevail. Faith says, the universe is impartial, but it is perfectly just. And this faith, when combined with discipline, becomes unbreakable power. For faith provides endurance when logic sees delay. Discipline provides consistency when emotion demands surrender. Together, they create momentum that cannot be stopped. And what is momentum but the physical manifestation of inner focus? Each act of consistency builds invisible speed. Each repetition compounds strength. Each calm response multiplies power. Eventually, success becomes effortless, not because the work is easy, but because the worker has become evolved. The process has reshaped the man, and now the man reshapes his world. When you have reached this stage, you will no longer chase the outcome, you will embody it. Your very being will radiate certainty. You will walk with quiet confidence, not because you expect things to happen, but because you know you have built the cause that guarantees them. You will move with peace through pressure and with patience through progress. You will have learned that mastery is not a destination, but a state of being. And then perhaps you will smile, not with pride, but with gratitude. For you will realize that the journey was never about acquiring things. It was about becoming someone. Every challenge was sculpting you. Every delay was teaching you. Every emotion you conquered was turning chaos into character. That is why you must fall in love with the process, because the process is where you meet yourself. It is where potential becomes power, where desire becomes discipline, where thought becomes reality. The outcome will fade, the applause will pass, but the process will remain, eternally renewing you from within. So begin today, and begin with calm. Do not seek to rush, seek to refine. Do not seek to prove, seek to improve. Do not wait for conditions to be right. Make your condition right through your mindset. Detach from result, attach to rhythm. Replace reaction with reflection, impulse with intention, wish with work. And know this truth with every fiber of your being. The man who falls in love with the process cannot fail, because his success is no longer a matter of chance, it is a matter of character. For the world will always bend, in time, to the will of the calm, disciplined mind. And when that time comes, when you have mastered yourself so completely that you no longer chase the fruits of your labor but cultivate them effortlessly through law, you will understand what every great soul before you has known, that heaven is not a place you reach, but a state you build within. Fall in love with the process, not the outcome, and you will never again live as a servant of results, but as a sovereign of reality.